I rode in that airplane about 2 weeks before. I was going with this boy at the time, and he was taking flying lessons there at Mason City. And we had went up in this plane, and circled the city with the instructor. We didn't learn about this till about 2 weeks after Buddy Holly was killed, but it was the same plane that we had went up in.
Dateline, Mason City, Iowa, Tuesday, February 3rd, 1959, quoting the Mason City Globe-Gazette. In bold print, 4 killed in Clear Lake plane crash. And the story. 4 persons were burned beyond recognition when a single-engine plane crashed early Tuesday 5 miles north of Clear Lake on the Albert Jewell Farm. The plane was owned by the Dwyer Flying Service of Mason City. The craft took off from the Mason City Municipal Airport at 1 a.m. on a flight to Fargo, North Dakota. Roger Peterson, Clear Lake, was the pilot. Wreckage of the plane was spotted Tuesday morning by a member of the Dwyer Flying Service after search planes had been grounded earlier in the morning. The Jewell Farm is a dead-end road. Identity of the passengers was withheld by authorities until relatives were notified. The plane was a 4-place Beechcraft Bonanza. Cause of the crash, unknown. Deanne Peterson, wife of the pilot, is employed in the accounting department of KGLO-TV. The identity of the passengers was made difficult, according to Dwyer, because arrangements for the flight were apparently made by Peterson and details were not known. Jerry Dwyer, owner of the flying service, discovered the wreckage hours later. He set out to search for the plane when there was no word from it. Quoting from the Mason City Globe-Gazette in Mason City, Iowa, Tuesday, February 3rd, 1959. Dateline, Mason City, Iowa, Wednesday, February 4th, 1959. Quoting the Mason City Globe-Gazette. In bold print, rock and roll idols among lake crash dead. The story. 4 persons, 3 identified as nationally famous rock and roll singers, died early Tuesday in a plane crash 5 miles north of Clear Lake. The 3 singers were Buddy Holly, 22, of Texas, Ritchie Valens, 21, of Los Angeles, and J.P. Richardson, 24, of Louisiana, known professionally as the Big Bopper. Also killed was the pilot of the plane, Roger Peterson, of Clear Lake. The entertainers had appeared at Surf Ballroom Monday night and were to appear at Fargo, North Dakota, Tuesday night. Other members of the troupe, which appeared at Clear Lake, left after the show by chartered bus for Fargo. They are Dion and the Belmonts, Frankie Sardo and the Crickets, of which Holly was the singing star. Valens and Richardson decided to fly in order to arrive ahead of the troupe and make advance preparations. The single-engine, 4-place Beechcraft Bonanza left the Mason City Airport shortly after 1 a.m. It crashed about 7 miles northwest of the airport. The plane was owned by the Dwyer Flying Service of Mason City. The trip to Fargo was expected to take about 3.5 hours. When no word of the plane's arrival was heard, Jerry Dwyer, owner of the flying service, set out to look for the party. He was delayed several hours because of early morning fog. Dwyer discovered the wreckage on the Albert Jewell Farm about 9:30 a.m. It was obvious the pilot had been flying on a straight northwest line and was at a very low angle to the ground when he hit. The field sloped slightly toward the northwest. The left wing of the plane seemingly struck the ground and plowed a furrow for about a dozen feet before it crumpled and the body of the plane hit. It dug a shallow depression in the stubble field, and the wing fell off as the rest of the plane bounced. It struck the ground again about 50 feet farther northwest, then skidded on the ground about 2 city blocks until it piled up against a fence. The wreckage was a jumbled mass which would not have been recognized as a plane. Along the skid path, small bits of the plane and its contents were strewn. There was a man's shoe, a traveling bag, and small pieces of the plane, including parts of the instrument panel. The bag was the largest piece except for the wing, the jumble against the fence, and 3 bodies. 1 body was broken and entangled in the wreckage. 2 bodies were lying about 12 feet south and southwest of the plane. Another body was lying about 40 feet northwest of the plane. No bodies were positively identified at the scene. Newsmen and others were barred from the scene until 11:30 a.m. after Dr. Ralph E. Smiley, the acting coroner, arrived. Authorities do not yet know the cause of the accident. Some believe, however, that ice may have formed on the wings or windshield making a forced landing necessary. Dwyer said he didn't have the faintest idea why the plane crashed. He said the craft was in good condition. He said Peterson was a competent pilot and weather conditions were favorable for flying. He estimated the plane crashed only a couple of minutes after taking off. Quoting from the Mason City Globe-Gazette, dateline Mason City, Iowa, Wednesday, February 4th, 1959. All three of the entertainers killed in Tuesday's plane crash near Clear Lake were among the nation's top rock and roll artists. They have had records ranked among the top 10 in recent months. Perhaps the best known of the three was Buddy Holly, who had appeared twice on the Ed Sullivan TV show. He also recorded such hits as Peggy Sue, Early in the Morning, and Heartbeat. At Hollywood, California, Bob Keane, manager of Richie Valens, called his 17-year-old star the hottest singer in the country. Everybody was calling him the next Presley. Valens was best known for his current record, Donna, which is ranked 6th in the United Press International ratings of popular tunes. The third victim, J.P. Richardson, better known to rock and roll fans as the Big Bopper, was a singer-songwriter whose most famous record was Chantilly Lace, a number he wrote himself. He also wrote and recorded another tune, Big Bopper's Wedding, which is currently popular with the teenage set. Hollywood trade sources said the combined record sales of three rock and roll singers were in the millions. Quoting the Mason City Globe-Gazette, dateline Mason City, Iowa, Wednesday, February 4th, 1959.
Your name is Gwen Campbell. You're 17 years old. You're a teenager in 1959. Your hometown is Doherty, Iowa. It's a little town about 15 to 25 miles southeast of Clear Lake. And Clear Lake's about 5 to 10 miles from Mason City. And on February 3rd, 1959, you have a play practice. And that small-town atmosphere, the opportunity to go to the Surf Ballroom and see three of the great rock and roll singers of '59. And you'll never forget it.
Was the Surf Ballroom kind of the place? Did they have, a lot of the recording stars come there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a big, it was really the only place around there that they did come. In Iowa. We didn't get to Des Moines or any place, and this was the big place.
So the Surf Ballroom, that was it.
Uh-huh.
So in other words, not only kids from your hometown, but Clear Lake, Mason City, and all of these towns that were around there.
Oh, yeah. And even from, now see, we're very close to the Minnesota border.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine, even kids from there came down because, that was the only place to go, so that's where they went.
I see.
Yeah.
This particular night, I think it was a Monday night. It was a school night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
How did you get to the Surf Ballroom?
Well, my girlfriend happened to have a car, and we almost missed them because we were having play practice. And, it was kind of cloudy that night, and foggy. And we had play practice, and then we all decided to go afterwards. So we piled in her car and went.
How many kids were there?
Oh, I think there was about 4 girls and a couple of boys that went with us that night.
But did she have her own car, or was it the folks' car?
It was the folks' car.
Is that right? Do you remember what kind it was?
Oh, they always drove Pontiac, so I imagine it was a Pontiac.
About a 59?
Probably, yeah. Or
Is that
older
right?
than that. It wasn't a new one. I think it was, probably a 56 or 55.
Do you remember the play you were practicing for?
No, I don't.
You can't.
I've been trying to rack my brain and think of it, and I can't think of what it was, but I know it was like a senior class play that we put on. I don't remember the name.
Do you remember what it cost to get in?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is. I just don't even remember. I know it wasn't, I don't think it was over $2.
Uh-huh.
Because maybe it was somewhere around $2, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about reasonable for
Yeah.
that time. $1.50, $2.
Yeah, this probably is, about
And,
what it was.
and I think at that time that was considered quite a bit of money.
It was, yeah. We didn't really have it then.
Well, in the old news articles that you sent me out of the paper, they said something like 1,000 kids were there.
Uh-huh.
Now, was that a big turnout or was that a small turnout?
Well, for there, it was kind of in between, It was pretty good, really, because there wasn't usually too many more than that showed up.
Yeah,
It's
because
about the size of, the ballroom wasn't really, it's a good size, but that's, we filled it.
uh-huh. What kind of a ballroom was it?
Well, it's like the old big band era,
Uh-huh.
The big bands used to come there, and it's they had the big stage up and then the booths, in tiers around it.
Oh, I see. It had booths in it.
Yeah, it had booths all around it.
Uh-huh.
And the one thing I do remember about the Surf Ballroom is the ceiling had clouds on it, blue sky and clouds. When you looked up, they moved.
You know, I think you talk about all those old ballrooms, that's the way they were, whether it was big band or not. They had the hand-painted pictures up on the old ceiling.
Yeah, and you know, all around the edges they had pictures of, well, like, you know, palm trees and blue sky and waves, you know, and stuff, which, you know, is the surf.
Uh-huh. Do you remember what time the concert started?
Well, no, like I said, I think we were late getting there. We didn't get there till probably 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually started about 9.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not before that. And usually these had records. You know, they played records until the artist came on.
I see.
And that's
When
what it was.
when did the artists come on?
I think they were on when we got there, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, let me find out from you. We know that Buddy Holly was there, and Richie Valens, and J.P. Richardson, the Big Bopper. The Crickets were there, weren't they?
Yes, uh-huh.
And in the article lists, it says, you know, the three that we mentioned, it says the Crickets, a fellow by the name of Sardo, Frankie Sardo and the Crickets, and Dion and the Belmonts. What kind of a show did they give you? Did you get to see them all perform?
Oh, yeah. Each one, you know, each one separate on the stage. And then they had, let's see. I just don't remember, you know, really much about it. They performed all their good songs, you know. Buddy Holly did his Peggy Sue and That'll Be the Day, you know, and they did just their pop records.
Mm-hmm.
And just, now the Big Bopper, I don't remember. I think he did a couple other numbers, but...
Other than Chantilly
yeah,
Lace?
but boy, I can't remember what they would be now.
Uh-huh. Were there any, what was the kind of reception? What kind of reception did the kids give them during the concert?
Great.
It was great. Did
Yeah,
they?
really great, because we couldn't hardly hear them sing, and they were all standing up around the stage, you know how they were then, like
Sure.
now screaming, you know. And,
Uh-huh. But you had fun, didn't you?
oh, yeah, we did. And we were so sad the next day we didn't learn about it till about noon.
Is that right?
Well, we went to a parochial school,
Uh-huh.
and we'd get up early in the morning and left for school, and we didn't listen to the news.
Mm-hmm.
And about noon, some of the kids had went home for lunch, and they came back, you know, and told us, and you know, the whole place was just dead the rest of the day. You know, we were just all shook up over it.
Yeah, it was a very sad thing.
Yeah, it really was, you know, and to think that we had been there, you know, and
And so we remember February 3rd, 1959. Not the talent of the three singers killed, but what they represented. The end of simplicity in American music, and the end of an era of simplicity in American history. And for those of us who were there to see it, feel it, and experience it, it's something we'll never forget. Thus, the death knell for the 50s was sounded.
Bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I die.
I'll take the time to give credit to those people that helped me out on the preceding 30 minutes. I thank Jim Hinton, who was the fine newsman you heard there. I've worked with Jim for any number of years. The lady referred to, Gwen Campbell, who was a teenager, has become Mrs. Gwen Zweck. And it was her that we were interviewing, and it was also her that supplied us with the news articles of the tragedy of '59. Thank you very much for your company. And have a nice Sunday, Jackie Kennedy Onassis, wherever you are.